you may need something else. People go for one thing often when they need something else. There's a study that showed that when people are overtired, they eat too much. They're not hungry, they don't need food, but they're eating because they're tired. It makes no sense. So when you see this symptom arise about needing a break, you can say, what do I need? You might need a walk around the block. You might need a nap. So first, you get to choose the break. Second, you can ask yourself, how long am I going to do this for? Okay, 10 minutes. And then guess what? A, you've got a better break, maybe, or maybe you've got the same one. But B, you have gained yourself a lot of time because you're going to set a limit on the break. And then eventually you learn to take the number of breaks you need so that you don't find yourself in quadrant 4 later. And that's how you make this a quadrant 2 activity. So, moving on, I'm going to talk to you about how to really use these thoughts in the matrix. So Stephen Covey also was credited with doing this demonstration, though he always said that it wasn't his. He did it. He didn't invent it. So this is a visual demonstration of how to use the matrix. So what he gives you is this jar, and this jar represents, just like the matrix does, this jar represents every hour in your day. So that jar is it. That's all the time you have. Inside that jar is gravel. Outside that jar is big rocks. So we have inside the small rocks, outside the big rocks. Your task, and this is funny to me because this is your task in life really, your task is to get all that stuff in there together, to get all the big rocks in the jar with little rocks. However, as you look at that, what you can see is that is not possible. And actually, if you look online for a demonstration of this, you will find a woman who is doing that exercise, and she's pretty entertaining because she's working very hard at it, and it's just not possible. You can't get all the rocks in together, big rocks and small rocks. So the solution, and if we were live, I would ask you guys for this, but I'm just going to tell you the solution is, well, a different paradigm. It's a different way of looking at it. If you think about how else you might approach this problem, and this is what we're suggesting, right? When we just now talked about, well, my employees need to come in and talk to me all the time. We're going to look at, like, brainstorming a different way of looking at it. The different way of looking at this puzzle is that you dump out the small rocks. That you dump everything out of the jar, and you put the big rocks in first. And if you put the big rocks in first, and then you pour in the small rocks, guess what? It all fits. I love this example because it is so demonstrates the idea that this is a new paradigm, because you can't do it the way you were doing it. You can't do it by pushing down harder and shoving it and moving it around and jostling the small rocks. It simply can't be done that way. It's a puzzle. And the answer to the puzzle is you've got to put the big rocks in first. And so I'm going to leave you today really with a puzzle question, which is how do I correct this? But the first thing we want to do to correct it is we want to recognize what are the big rocks. Because we're going to go from the metaphor of what we're looking at right here to the real world, and what really are the big rocks for you. Because putting the big rocks in first basically means calendaring them, scheduling them, knowing that they will get taken care of. It is like building a house, right? You've got to do the foundation first. And it's not that the paint and the color and the pictures on the wall are not important. It's that you can't do them first. You've got to do the foundation first. Your foundation is the big rocks. So I will suggest to you that you use a calendar, but again, you guys brainstorm. Some people, that's just a little too rigid for them. But for many people, the whole world opens up when they start using a calendar. And let's just stop for 1 sec here and say, what are the big rocks in this scenario? So what do you guys think are the big rocks?
Client meetings.
Good. Client meetings are most definitely big rocks because it's relationship building. It's important. And many times it's ahead of time kind of preparation type of activity. What else would be a big rock?
Employee training.
Employee training, most definitely, right? Because you're preventing something in the future, and it's relationship building. Elise said spending time with family. Yes. What else? How about things that you do to take care of yourself? Right, so exercise, meditation perhaps. So the big rocks are mostly, yeah, a couple of you said exercise. Sorry, I don't look at the typed in part that much. The big rocks are pretty much quadrant 2 activities because you're not just going to do it. Getting enough rest and sleep, yep. You're not just going to do it, right? Because we know most of us operate from a paradigm of urgency, emergency. The way most people run their clocks, their lives, their calendars is by doing what's in front of them, by doing the thing that's most scary, by getting the thing off of your table, off of your desk that is there in your way. Yeah, and Carson said shopping for food ahead of time so that you avoid getting food on the go and poor food choices. Yes, that's preparation. And so the reason that that we need to calendar in some way, if not on a paper calendar, electronic calendar, find some way, your big rocks is, guess what? Otherwise, you leave them to that haphazard way of doing it, right? I'll eat the good food if I have time. I'll get to this one if it becomes an emergency. But when you calendar and schedule them, you're committing yourself to them, that you're really going to do it. Now, we're going to talk about blocking right now. And I have a couple things to say about blocking. First off, most people use a calendar to some degree. Most attorneys use a calendar to say, on August 25th, I have a hearing. On March 23rd, this brief is due. On May 21st, this client is coming in and I have a meeting. Most people use a calendar pretty much just to alert them that there's a deadline. And most attorneys, how do I say this, have a sense that they'll get to it when the time comes near, you know. So I've got till August 28th. I mean, today is only May 15th. I've got tons of time. I'm going to do everything else that's in front of me. I'm going to recommend that there's a different way to do it that might be more effective for you. Because if quadrant 2 are the big rocks, and quadrant 2 is about planning and preparation, then one idea, actually go back to the prior one, please, Sharon. One idea is that you would take the deadline, that you would take the deadline, you would figure out how much time you need to do this project. So how many hours does it take to do this brief? Well, let's say it takes 20 hours. Now you see the blocks on this calendar here. This is me, I can't read the words, so I may not say what they say there, but this is me essentially saying 2 hours I'm going to work on this project. This day, this day, this day, this day. So then guess what? I have planned how I'm going to get this brief done. I have planned it all out. So I don't wait until there's time. That, by the way, again, old paradigm, never going to happen. I think most of you know that about yourself. Some of you are good at it. Some of you can do it. But I think, you know, if you look at the way you've done things in the past, what you'll see is that waiting until I have the time does not typically work. This is, you know, the reality view, the view of the world as it is. That if I don't calendar the time, I won't do it. So that's a big rock. Another thing I want to say about big rocks is that, so all of these blocks represent big rocks. Now, the way I would do it, and again, not everyone does it this way, is each one of these blocks would be something that is a big rock. So one might be exercise, one might be a meeting, one might be those preparation times, like I said. So now go forward, please, Sharon. So now this next illustration is about how to calendar your preparation time, which is kind of what I was just talking about. If you break it down into pieces, now there's two ways to break a project into pieces. Number one is figure out